Good evening. The time is 7:38. I apologize for us starting late. This is the public hearing and regular business meeting of the mayor and council for the city of Snellville, Georgia for Monday, August the 13th, 2018. Called the meeting to order. We have the invocation by Miss Laura Drake. She's the director of the Southeast Gwinnett Co-op. Laura?
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, let all that is brought forth in this place this evening witness to the world that Snellville is a place that cares deeply about her people, all people, from the household with the highest income to the person who carries all that they own on their back. Give us wisdom and discernment that flows from your call for justice for the oppressed, care for the forgotten, and hope for all people. Thank you for trusting us with your creation. Forgive us when we fall short of your standards of care. Reset our hearts and minds to focus on your priorities. Help us, Lord. Let us care deeply for each other. Let us do nothing out of selfish or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above ourselves, not looking to our own interest, but to the interest of others. Thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to make a positive impact on this little corner of the world. Thank you for these men and women here tonight. Guide their discussions and lead them in the way that they should go. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Laura. Next, we'll have the pledge to the flag, Glennis and Ronnie Bentley.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ronnie and Glennis Bentley. Next, under ceremonial matters, we have a presentation to the City of Snellville by board members from Run the Reagan. If y'all would like to come forward up to the podium.
Good evening. I'm Diane Baker, and I have with me three other board members, I think, who are much better known than I am. Amanda Sosby, Ron Weber, and Warren Auld. And we just wanted to take this opportunity to recognize and thank the City of Snellville, our police department here, our Snellville Police Explorers Post, and Bobby Howard for their help in making our 2018 Run the Reagan, you can see some wonderful pictures behind you, so successful. 2018 was the 24th year of Run the Reagan. And this past year, we had over 1,400 runners. I was not one of them. 250 volunteers, 50 vendors. You can see our Family Fun Festival, 300 people attended that, and over 20 sponsors. And the great thing about Run the Reagan is, of all of the funds that we raised, $18,000 went to 3 local charities.
$18,000 each?
Yes, to the Brookwood Schools, to the Southeast Co-op, and to the Lilburn Co-op. We also donated over $1,400 to local school race teams and $200 to our Snellville Police Explorers. And I hope in the coming year that you'll be able to join us for our next 25th Run the Reagan on February 23rd of 2019. And with that, we have plaques that we'd like to give to the City of Snellville, the Explorers, the Police Department, and to Mr. Bobby Howard.
Yeah, someone from the Explorers come up and receive it. Sure. I'd like to give it to you.
And we'd love to get some pictures.
You got to do a photo op there. guys come on up. We're going to get you in this picture here.
Well, we're going to do separate.
You can take me.
Oh, I thought you said you were going to take me to lunch.
I'll let you take me.
All right. Are we doing it all at once now? Squeeze. We gotta squeeze them in. You guys get in there. All right, there we go. 1, 2, uh-oh. 3 cheese. Uh-oh. Y'all gotta get a little tighter. Yeah. Yes, there we go. There you go. Cheese. That's good. Do you want to do them individually now, or is that good?
You know, I think we're okay with the group picture. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, the board members of Run the Reagan. We appreciate that. Next, we'll have the approval of the minutes for the July 23rd meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes of the July 23rd, 2018 meeting.
There's a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. That is 4 in favor. Any opposed? 1 abstention. We have no invited guests and no committee or department reports. Next, we'll have the approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve tonight's agenda with 2 changes. Under new business, item B, an adjustment on the address to 2395 Clower Street, elimination of the tax parcel. And we would also like to add item E under new business, which will be consideration and action on resolution to enact a moratorium on the issuance of construction and development permits within the PRC zoning district in the city of Snellville until November 11th, 2018.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the agenda with 2 amendments. Is there a second?
Second.
And there's a second. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. That is 5 in favor and none opposed. Next, we have a public hearing. We have item A, the second reading ordinance 2018-09, consideration and action on an ordinance authorizing an increase in the salaries for the mayor, mayor pro tempore, and council members of the city of Snellville, Georgia. Councilmember Linsky, did you want to explain this?
Sure. 2 weeks ago, we introduced this, actually had a first reading and opened up a public hearing. This is a salary adjustment that the City of Snellville Council, Mayor and Council has not received since 1983. This would be the very first salary adjustment and would only apply to the newly elected officials after the next regular municipal election in November of 2019, particularly for posts 1, post 2, and for the mayor. And this would actually not apply until 2021 for myself, post 3, post 4 and 5. So this is certainly not a current pay increase for the individuals you see here before you. The initial proposal, the ordinance was to increase the mayor's salary to $12,000 a year, and I had introduced a category in particular for Mayor Pro Temp. Well, we have rethought that a bit and decided that it would be best to go with the overall 8,000 for all of the rest of the council members, including whoever could be the Mayor Pro Temp potential, after a few concerns that were raised over separating that category. The salary adjustments, again, would apply prospectively, not retroactively, and it's just long overdue, and we've absolutely got to attract new inspired servant leaders, young people into this particular level of government. Their talent is so badly needed. So I hope you'll join me in support of this ordinance.
Okay, that's an explanation. Before we call for a vote, this is under public hearing, so if any members of the audience would like to come up and speak either for or against this ordinance, please step forward and give your name and address for the record.
Marcy Ferris, 1749 Ridgedale Drive. I am for it. 35 years is way too long to go without an increase. And all of you work hard and come out to all of our functions and help us, and you deserve it. So I'm glad, Christy, that you took the initiative and followed this through. And I wish you all could participate in it. So I'll rerun.
We'll see.
Thank you, Ms. Ferris. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2018-09, authorizing an increase in the salaries with a slight amendment. Under Section 1, letter B, eliminating the separate salary for Mayor Pro Temp. And in summary, that would mean Mayor, $12,000 per year salary, and all other council members, $8,000 per year.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. That is 3 in favor. All opposed? It's 2 opposed. The motion carries. It was me and Roger. Next, we have a first reading on CUP 18-03, consideration and recommendation on application by 2775 WM LLC and PNC Bank NA for a conditional use permit for a retail automotive parts store, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and request for variances from the Snellville Code of Ordinances for the 1.487 acre property zoned BG, General Business District, and located in the Corridor Overlay District at 2775 West Main Street, Snellville, Georgia. Tax parcel 5007-165. Is there a motion to waive the first reading?
Motion to waive the first reading on CUP 1803 as read by the Mayor Pro Tem.
And place on the,
August 27th meeting for the second reading.
okay, there's a motion to waive the first reading. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. That's 5 in favor, none opposed. That concludes our public hearing tonight. We have nothing on the consent agenda, nothing under old business. Under new business, we have item A, second reading ordinance 2018-10, consideration and action on adoption of the speed zone ordinance pursuant to Georgia Code, Title 40, Section 40-6-370 through Section 40-6-376, and Section 40-6-181 through 183 of that title, the Uniform Rules of the Road. Chief Whitehead, if you could come up and let everybody know what we're doing here.
Yes, ma'am. This is an ordinance that's required to be passed every 3 years by the state of Georgia. What it does is control and set speed limits on streets located within the corporate limits of the city, and it also issues and allows us to run laser and radar on certain streets. There are certain conditions that have to exist before you can run radar and laser, and this ordinance, by passing it, is in conformity with those rules and regulations that are promulgated by the Department of Public Safety.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the chief? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance 2018-10.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any comments by council? Okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. It's 5 in favor and none opposed. Next, we have item B, consideration and action on approval of contract to acquire 2395 Clower Street, Snellville, Georgia, and approval of subordinate contingent. Do we have that? Lease agreement. Subordinate contingent lease agreement and supporting documents for Snellville Town Center. I'm going to recuse myself from this action. And before I recuse myself, is there a motion to elect a chair?
Motion to elect Dave Emanuel, Chair, temporary.
Okay, there's a motion to have Dave Emanuel be the chair. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. It's 4 in favor. Any opposed? 1 abstention. With that, I will leave the room. I'm recusing myself because the owner of this property is a tax client of mine. So I will step out of the room while this action is considered.
Okay, I'd like to call for a motion, consideration and action on approval of a contract to acquire 2395 Clower Street in Snellville for a price of $610,000. Do we have a motion?
Yes, motion to approve the contract to acquire 2395 Clower Street in the amount of $610,000.
Second.
Second.
This is part of our town center property acquisition, so it's important that we acquire this property, and we've done a lot of work to get it at a very attractive price. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. 4 in favor, any opposed? The motion passes. Would somebody ask Ms. Pender to step back in, please?
I might if you get out of order.
Okay, so for item C, we have mayor's nomination and council confirmation of Mark Behrens to post 5 of the Development Authority of Snellville with the term expiration date of June 30th, 2019. So Mark Behrens is my nomination. All those in favor of confirmation, please signify by raising your right hand. That is 5 in favor, none opposed. Item D, My nomination and confirmation, or council confirmation of Mark Behrens to post 6 of the Urban Redevelopment Agency with a term expiration date of June 30th, 2019. That's my motion, and all those who wish to confirm, please signify by raising your right hand. Is 5 in favor and none opposed. Mark, welcome aboard. We appreciate your stepping up for this. Okay, next we'll have our item added E, consideration and action to enact a moratorium on the issuance of construction and development permits within the PRZ zoning district in the city of Snellville. Mr. City Attorney, can you give us an explanation?
Reacting a little bit to an inquiry, and to give you the magnitude of the inquiry, it's an applicant who is wanting to use a PRC zoning district, which is townhouses, and operate it like it's an apartment complex. And so it was clear in the application process that this is single family and owner occupied units. And so what we asked as the city attorney's office, once we heard the descriptions, we think our ordinances are in good order because they say all of those things, single family and owner occupied. But in some of the meetings that we had this past week, there were some issues raised that we want council to comment on and put in our ordinance to make clear some of the issues that were raised in that meeting as far as the current applicant and as to all future applicants. It makes sure that nobody is confused over this issue in the future. That's really what we're asking for, is a moratorium in the PRC so that no one else other than this one who's already applied can attempt to take advantage of what we think was unintended. So.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. With that, I will ask for a motion.
Motion to approve a resolution to enact a moratorium on the issuance of construction and development permits within the PRC zoning district in the city of Snellville.
Would you specify the end date as well?
Sorry. And this moratorium will stay in effect until November 11th, 2018.
Y'all skip discussion, the discussion part.
Oh. We'll have the motion in a second, and then we'll have open discussion.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion by council? Mr. Marble?
Yes, Tony, you said that, so the current applicant that found this basically like loophole or whatever you want to call it, they aren't going to be subject to whatever is discussed or put into place after we get this 90-day thing settled?
Just, that's one of the hard things about dealing with this subject matter is there is no loophole. I want to make that really clear. There's no loophole in your ordinance. There were issues raised. In the normal course of things, the reason you use a moratorium is to keep people from having vested rights in an ordinance that you don't agree with, that where there's a problem with it. So in this case, I don't believe that. I don't believe it's necessary to have a moratorium for that purpose. But what we're doing is, while we make the clarification of those issues of single family, multifamily, owner occupied in terms of definitions, that nobody else is in play as a vested right participant in that discussion. So that's the import of the moratorium itself. But at this point, we believe, it's just a straight up, it's the way the application was done. These are supposed to be owner-occupied single-family residences by application and by ordinance. That's not something anybody can bypass, including the current applicant.
So what the applicant applied for, they aren't going to be able to do it even though they got permits for it?
They really don't have that. We don't have it. It's not in our permits even now. That's not something that they could apply for. That would to be rejected by our planning department. To have a multifamily use in a single family neighborhood would not be allowed under the current ordinance. The moratorium will not affect the current applicant in terms of having vested rights at the time of their application. But we want to make sure that the current applicant understands the council's position on the issue, the clarity of the ordinance in terms of definitions. It will both assist any future applicant from getting caught up in the issue, and we believe it's very helpful from if we were to be challenged judicially, for the council to have commented on all these issues very clearly is very helpful to a case. So it's just a good thing to do.
Yeah, for the future ones, I'm not concerned about that right now. I'm talking about the current one. Like Jason, at the meeting you said that they already got their things set up, their layout, their plans, all that stuff. But now you're saying that no, that's going to be kicked out or not accepted.
No, that would be Jason. That would be the planning director's decision making about whether the plans themselves meet the criteria. But if they show an apartment complex in a PRC zoning class, they should be kicked out, because that's not a multifamily class. So.
Isn't this in the event that they challenge it in legal terms? They take us to court that we need the better clarification.
No, it's really not. We couldn't impose new restrictions on the current applicant. Their applications are in. So the issue is clarifying that would be admissible in any future litigation. The council will have commented, and we're being overly protective because that's what we are supposed to be when it comes to this issue. Community feels strongly about it. So when we see somebody step up trying to bypass what are clear rules, but there's not anybody in the room that I think would question what owner occupied means. You have to have a lawyer to do that kind of thing. So we are going from what is common language and common rule to being defined in a lawyerly way, so we can deal with the current application and any future applications. It's fair to the current applicant for us to do this, because they need to have a clear playing field if they choose to buy this piece of property. And we want to make that real clear what the rules in Snellville are, even for those who are limited to be lawyers. So we're just helping them out. So
For those people who couldn't do anything else, practice law. Sorry, I'm being chastised by our city attorney now. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Am I right? We have a motion and a second. I didn't write that down. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. That is 4 in favor. Any opposed? 1 opposed. The motion carries. Okay. That needs to be signed right there. That ends our new business section of the meeting, and we'll move into council reports. Councilmember Marmol. Councilman Berlinski.
Just really like to thank the community for coming out to support this measure about the salary increase for future council. It's a very important aspect of giving credibility, I think, to what we do up here. We do work so hard for you, and again, even though none of us up here currently will immediately get a salary increase unless we should decide to run again, it's an important aspect of attracting highly qualified individuals to the city, keeping them here, bringing in our best and brightest, and paying them for what we hope they bring to the city in incredible amounts of value. School is back in. Have you noticed the traffic? We're on our second full week. Our first home football game, South Gwinnett High School, will be August 31st, and that does happen to be the Battle of Snellville. So Brookwood versus South Gwinnett, and the Comets are hoping to regain possession of the Mayor's Trophy this year. So we'll see what happens. Lots of great things happening in terms of businesses around Snellville. The School of Rock opened last Saturday. We had a great time there. They had awesome food, which you know is a priority to me. Let's see, Salon Studios Beauty Mall will be opening ribbon cutting on Friday, this Friday, as well as Cottage Adult Daycare ribbon cutting is scheduled for this Friday as well. So we welcome them to the Snellville community.
Councilmember Emanuel?
I'd like to call some attention to Greg Earl, who is a vendor at our farmers market. And for the past, I don't know how many weeks, he donates everything left over that he doesn't sell to the Southeast Gwinnett Co-op. And I've had the pleasure of bringing it up to the co-op, and it's typically 18 or 19 boxes of fresh produce that the co-op is then able to distribute. So the co-op continues to do excellent work. They serve 700 families a month. And anybody who feels like donating or helping out in any ways, I'm sure they will appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilmember Schultz?
As a follow-up to Mr. Emanuel's comments, I would really like to call attention to Greg Earl also. Kurt and I have been keeping track of the number of boxes of produce that he has donated this year. And so far, it's 161 boxes. They're the peach boxes. And we estimate there's about 20 pounds of produce in a box on average. And I think we figured out that's like 3,500 pounds of produce that he's donated so far this year. They are just such a generous, giving family. And I hope when you come to the market that you'll purchase produce from them.
And I have to add, it's really difficult to keep my hands out of the boxes because some of the produce smells really good. It's really fresh.
Thank you. And just in my report, I'd also like to welcome School of Rock. Even if you have no intention of ever getting a music lesson, y'all need to go into that location. It's right next to the Michaels. They have that decorated so cool. You'll love it. You just need to go in just to see how it's fixed up. But they were great people. Glad to see them coming into the city. It looks like a really fun group. Next, I guess it's this coming Saturday night, we have our Doobie Brothers concert on the Green starting at 6 p.m. So y'all come out for that. Let's see what else we've got here. Oh, and I also wanted to ask for prayers. Our chief judge here in the city, Mark Lang, has been under the weather. He had hip replacement surgery, which has now, they've found lymphoma in his back, and it's treatable. It's non-Hodgkin's, and it's treatable, and so they were starting chemotherapy. Well, in the midst of that, his wife got home from church a week ago Sunday, and he was short of breath. So she and a neighbor got him in the car, and she drove him to the ER, and it turns out he had a pulmonary embolism. And by all accounts, he should not have survived. He's in the 3% of the people that ever survive something like that, especially when it happened when he wasn't at the hospital. So if you would, he is recovering. They were able to treat him. The doctor said he is truly a miracle man. And so we just think he's a stubborn old cuss and he's refusing to die. So he'll be around for a good while longer, I think. But if you will, just keep him and his family in your prayers. We would appreciate it. And with that, I will open up the floor to public comment. If anyone would like to come, Ms. Ferris, step right up. Give your name and address for the record.
Marcy Ferris, 1749 Ridgedale Drive. I have a question about this new business that we just did. Item B on this agenda says contract to acquire 2260 Oak Road, but you all said 2285 Clower Street.
Yes, ma'am. When we approved the agenda, we did it with 2 amendments. The first amendment was to item B, to change the address to 2395 Clower Street.
And what is there at 2280? What are we buying for $610,000?
That is the East Mountain Insurers Building, the 2-story office building next to the dialysis center.
Oh, okay. All right, that's what I wanted to know.
Okay. That change to the agenda was made during the approval of the agenda process.
Okay, I must not have been paying attention.
Unlike you.
What are we going to buy next?
We'll let you know.
Okay.
All right.
Obviously, you can't seem to get the property for the roundabout. So maybe you should try something else.
Would anyone else like to make a comment? Your name and address for the record, please.
There we go. Bobby Howard, 2240 Pinehurst Road, Snellville, Georgia. As a former member of this body, I will 100% support an increase in your little stipend that we get every month. The hours that all of you, and including myself in past, we put in, we don't do it for the money. We clearly don't. But this gesture of a slight increase is well within reason and well overdue, and thank y'all for bringing it forward. Along those same lines, while our city employees are all well worthy of increases and things like that, I'm a little more fond of our police department and what we've done for them over the last 3 years. I hope we'll continue to do and address those imbalances where they're found. Our public safety department is by far one of the very best that I've ever been associated with, and I'm very proud to live in this city with that police department. And would you say, got my back? So just continue to leave them in the discussions, and don't leave them out, Mr. Sanders. And I know you haven't. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Anyone else? Let's come on up and state your name and address for the record.
Before my time starts, can I hand these to you?
Sure.
I'm Joseph Blackwell at 3171 Hampton Ridge Way in Snellville. That's in the Hampton Ridge subdivision. I am here tonight to speak concerning a safety issue in Briscoe Park. My wife and I have been walking in the park for about 2 years. Just about a week and a half ago, we noticed bicycles being ridden on the pedestrian paths near the lake, pavilions, and other picnic areas. For time's sake, I shall only describe 3 incidents which we observed and/or encountered. First, while we were walking together by the lake on the Lenora Church roadside, a bicyclist tried to ride between us. My wife was so startled that she lost her balance and nearly fell. This bicyclist gave us no warning, neither verbal, horn, or bell, that he was even near us. Our second incident was an observation of 2 very young males riding their bikes in tandem. I believe one bike even had training wheels on a pedestrian path, forcing the pedestrians off the walking path to get out of the children's way. No warning of any type was given by the children. Their grandfather was in the area, but not close enough to the children to direct them or their movements. The third incident occurred while my wife and I were walking on a path by the lake on the nursing home side. 2 young women rode up behind us without any warning that they wanted to get by us. We became aware of their presence behind us when we heard one of their brake pads scraping against the wheel of one of their bikes. I have that same problem on mine. It squeals like crazy. Anyway, my wife and I stopped by the park office and told Debbie just what I have stated to you, and she said to her knowledge that there were no rules or city ordinances prohibiting the riding of bicycles on pedestrian paths in the park, and she verified this with the park manager. I then called the Snellville Police Department, and an investigative officer stated the same information. Therefore, the pedestrians, the elderly, parents pushing strollers, pet owners with leashed dogs, walking on the walking paths are at risk of being hit because the pedestrians are at the mercy of the bicyclist. All park pedestrians using the walking paths would be very appreciative when the park prohibits bicycling on all of the pedestrian paths. Concerning the bicyclist safety, there are many areas along the pedestrian paths which are subject to natural debris, pine cones, pine straw, tree branches, etc., which could cause a bicyclist to lose control of their bike and or suffer a fall. Could this loss of control by the bicyclist involve a pedestrian? It certainly could. Does anyone have any questions concerning our request for an ordinance prohibiting bicycle riding on pedestrian paths in Briscoe Park?
Mr. Blackwell, thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. And we'll go ahead and follow back up with the police department and the parks and then have discussions on whether that's something that we should make a change to.
Super. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak, as well as for your time and consideration for this ordinance.
Great. Thank you very much again for bringing this to our attention. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second?
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. That's 5 in favor. We're done. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Drive safely.